Good afternoon. Today we're going to talk about how to actually provide feedback and grade the assignments that your students make. For this session, I will be using my existing courses that already have assignments that have submissions. It's the only way to demonstrate actual grading with actual submissions. So I can't do it in our usual demonstration space of the empty class or the empty course page because we actually need real assignments and submissions. So a lot of the video later on, a lot of the recording will be edited to hide the students' names and identities as much as possible, and we might cut out some of the things that are not blurrable. Okay, so for now, we're going to look at how to grade assignments. In terms of grading assignments, okay, I'm going to demonstrate again using a live course. A lot of our courses in this require students to submit their assignment or lab activities or projects by uploading files. So when we've done that, I'm going to use this course. Please do not be overwhelmed by my course page. It's already a whole completed semester, so we're gonna skip through the others. So I'm just gonna look at lab one, which is an assignment module that asks the student to upload one file only, but one file that is a zip or an archived file. So if you can see here, because this assignment is already done, there was an instruction with a linked sheet, and then I can view all the submissions. But first, I'm going to show you how I set up the feedback part. Okay, so in the settings of the assignment, I have enabled two important things. This is in the submissions, I've asked only for uploading a file, which is only one file maximum, and it should be a zip or a RAR file, depending on how they compress it. Again, you can choose other options. And because it's a small assignment, I didn't give a very big file size. So in terms of feedback types, I have selected two things. Feedback comments so that I can type in a text box anything that I want to tell the student about their submission. It's usually what went wrong or which aspects got them a deduction. And then I have offline grading worksheet. We enable this so that we can download an Excel file or a comma separated values or CSV file, which we can open in Excel or in Google Sheets. One of the things that we have in this course is we have student assistants who help us check the labs. So instead of giving them full power access in Moodle, we provide them the submissions and then have them input the scores and the comments in a spreadsheet, and then we just upload it. Okay, so that's what I'd like to demonstrate now. So we have these two things. I didn't check the others anymore. That's all I want to show because I'm going to demonstrate how we download all of the submissions all at once and then grade the submissions maybe offline outside of Moodle or inside Moodle, depending on your preference, and then uploading the offline grading sheet to map to all the students' feedback. So I'm gonna go back to my submissions. Okay, so when you have submissions already, in this example, everything has already been done, meaning no more submissions can be made because it was due a long time ago and the cutoff was already passed. All the submissions will be in the View All Submissions button. Okay, so it does say that I have submitted for grading, and sometimes it will tell you if the student submitted late. In our syllabi in the department, we allow up to 3 days of late work. So Moodle actually tells us by how late the student submitted. Okay, so we can do the grading here, but also I'd like to show you that you have all the students and there's a scroll bar and you'll see all of their files. Of course, if you have many students, 30, 50, 100 or more, that's going to be very cumbersome to download them one by one. So because our submissions are files that you cannot execute or extract on Moodle itself, you'll have to download them. In assignments, if you chose the assignment module, there will be options at the top to download all of the submissions. If you download all submissions, I'm just going to go somewhere here. I'll just put it on my desktop. It's going to essentially give you one compressed folder or zip file of all of the submissions that the students have made. And in my case, it's going to be a zip file of more zip files because each student submitted a zip file. It's good practice to tell your students what file names to use. Inside the folder, it will it will show me all of the folders inside it. Each folder has the name of the student, the assignment number, which is a Moodle generated number, and it's an assignment submission file. So inside each one is the student's submission. Of course, you can take all of that out of the folders and check them or extract them one by one. And you will be able to identify whose submission is which, whether or not they follow the naming convention that you specify, because each of them will have their own folder. This is done also in case your submission allows more than one file. Then if you have 20 files per student, then each one will be in their respective folders. So you know whose submission belongs to which student. So there, that's one thing. You can download all of the submissions. The other thing is we want to be able to download that offline grading worksheet. So you can download the grading worksheet, and then I'm going to open that. The file name is actually, the extension is a CSV, so comma separated values. If you're using Excel or another spreadsheet program, that will open properly. So I'm going to open that in Excel. I can also upload it to Google Sheets. I'm going to make everything fit so that we can see all of it. So some of the columns you don't really need. You don't really need some of the columns. I'm just going to hide them. But you should leave them there. Don't delete them because Moodle will look for that when mapping, even if they're empty. So the most important parts to show you are, of course, you have the student's name and you can check their submission, and then you can place their score. So let's say they got 80 or 75 or 92 or whatever. You'll also see when the student submitted, the last time they submitted, they can overwrite previous submissions within the acceptable time. And you'll be able to see when their submission is. So if you have a penalty for submitting late, the grade sheet also tells you that they submitted late. This one is not as important. It's when you updated the grade. At this point, it won't take any effect. So we're only going to look at entering the grade and entering feedback comments. Let's say it's -5 late penalty. Oops, sorry, that's Excel and it won't say -5. I have to put a mark there. And then let's say -2 for not following instructions, and so on. You can have multiple lines. So for example, you have a late penalty and then a line break that's on your keyboard to Alt Enter. And then -3, for example, for missing function. Or you can do that for all the rows for all the students. And then when you save that, again, I only hid the other column, so they're still there. There, I've saved it. It's the same file. I'm not going to overwrite it anymore. What you can do is you can now upload the grading worksheet, and it will place the grades of the students that match in rows. When I upload that, I will choose the file. I can drag also. I can drag from my folder, which is here. I can drag it there and it's comma separated, and I will upgrade. So if I allow updating records that have been modified, if I already entered some grades through Moodle and not through the grading worksheet, you have the option of which one to maintain. I haven't entered any in this example, so I'm just going to go with it. So upload the grading worksheet, and I only entered 3 scores. So notice that it's only going to map for 3 students. Okay, and I'm going to confirm that since this is an old course. So I'm going to confirm it, and you can see that when I continue back, I now have the grade, and I also have the comments that I put in my Excel file. Okay, so that's one way to grade your submissions. The other option is to grade your submission through Moodle. So for each one, you can actually click grade and then move to the next. You will see whatever the student submitted. In our case, because it's a zip file, I can't open it here. But if you wanted to, for whatever it was, you can type the grade, let's say 87, and then I'll put comments. Late submission or missing information, etc. I'm not going to notify the students because I don't want them to see that it's made up. Okay, and then you can show the next one so you don't have to go back. It'll move to the next student's submission and then you can do the same. So it really depends on what you are doing. Okay, so I'm going to go back and clear them all out. Okay, so that's how you would grade your assignments. I'm not going to save everything that I graded because that's not the accurate grade. This is a clone of what they actually submitted, so it doesn't affect what they already did. They already got a grade for this course. All right, that's grading an assignment module. The next type of assignment is where you upload a PDF. If you are asking your students to submit a diagram or a paper, for that matter, and you want to be able to make comments on the paper itself, there is a way in Moodle to do that. So in this course, I ask students to submit a PDF of their critique of another group's work. It's a group work, so I'm going to use this one as an example. I'm not going to save any of the changes, so it won't affect. This is the most recent course that I had that actually got affected by the suspensions. This is a group work, so there are only 4 submissions, but you'll actually see the same submission for each member of the group. So I'm not going to see just 4 rows of submissions, but all my students with the same file if they're in the same group. I'm going to just choose a group. There's only 3 of them in the group and they've all submitted. Only one person submitted it. Okay, only one person submitted, but they all receive a copy of what they submitted. I'm going to go on grade. Because it's a PDF, it will show me the file itself. The PDF annotation tools in Moodle allows you to make sticky notes and doodle and comment on PDFs. So for example, I can make a note or highlight something like I can make a note here and say you did not indicate your teacher's name on the cover page. You can leave a note like that. If you want to be more detailed, so let's say you can use the navigation to switch pages. It's not going to scroll all the way. You can doodle on something. This is comments and this one is comment color. Okay, so I can change the color if I wanted to and make another comment here. Please be more descriptive. So whatever you would like to comment, you can highlight in whatever color. There are color options for highlighting. You can also put an X mark stamp, a smiley face stamp, or a check mark if you like. It actually allows you to make very good comments on the paper itself. Because sometimes doing it the other way, where you just put it in the comment box, it's very difficult to point out which part of the document you are referring to. Okay, so you have the PDF annotation tools. That works on the premise that you enabled the setting for feedback to allow PDF annotation. In my submission types, I only put one file and it should be a PDF, and I enable annotate PDF. I still accept comments if I want to put something in the box, in the comment box. Okay, so I can do that. Commenting inline gets a bit messy, but you can enable it and you can type within the document itself. I'm going to try to switch that and see if it will work on a PDF. I'm actually not sure if it will work on a PDF. Usually if you have online text, then you can comment inline. I'm going to do that again. So I have the score there and I still have feedback comments if I want to put feedback comments. And then your grades, because it's a group submission in my case, it will apply to the entire group. I don't have to do the same thing for each member of the group. That's very inefficient. Okay, so the comments that I made are still there. Oh, I cannot type here because it's a PDF, but I can put notes. All right, if you're asking your students to submit online text, meaning they just type in a box instead of uploading a file, then you will be able to comment inline within the text that they typed. Okay, so that's the assignment for PDF annotations and offline grading and comments if you like to do it that way. I think you're also curious about quizzes. So we're going to do quizzes now. In grading quizzes, it depends on what type of quiz you've set up. Okay, so we have, for example, multiple choice, true or false. We also have a drawing part, which we ask students to upload a file instead. In our midterm exam, this midterm exam was conducted on campus in a computer lab. That's why all of the questions are in one place. Unlike when we set it up for the ECQ, we cut them up in parts. These are available to the student but not displayed on the course page because we wanted them to read the instructions in a page and then we linked the quizzes themselves in parts in the page so that they could take one small part at a time because of the ECQ. Again, we ended up not grading anything because it was not required anymore, but it was still a good activity for the students. I'm going to use the other course just because there are multiple attempts there already. And to see all of the attempts, okay, I'm going to hide all the other students. Okay, so there's fewer students. This filter is by surname or by first name, and then you can find different students. Okay, so for example, I have all these questions, and because I set up the questions to grade themselves, whether they're multiple choice or combination of questions, you'll see if students got partially right, okay, or completely wrong or completely right. And then there are a few options that we have to grade manually. Then in that case, we grade manually. Okay, so I'm going to go through one attempt. So I'm going to click the score that's already there and it will show me all of the items in the test. And it will also show me what the student answered, what the correct answer I indicated should be. And in this case, because the question is correct, then there's a check mark there. You can override it if there's a little problem with how the autocorrect automatic grading perform the correction, but sometimes they made like capital S and you weren't thinking of the case sensitivity and it will be marked wrong or partially wrong, then you can actually override the grade. Okay, so I'm going to go to an incorrect item. Okay, so the answer is supposed to be scope, but the student typed domain. That's not an acceptable answer, so it's marked wrong. For the others, like the ones with the partially correct, it's because they had to choose more than one. More than one answer is correct, but they only chose one. So they didn't get the entire expected response correctly, but they do get partial points for that. So you have selected one correctly, but two are the actually correct responses. And so the student will be able to see that if you allow them to see that. In our case, we can see it because we are in grading mode or in review mode. Okay, so there will be partial deductions for that. So in terms of the score, the student got 1 out of 2 marks there. So because there are two correct answers, we gave 2 points. It's not always a direct mapping, but again, you can have penalties for half or 1/3 of the score. This type of question is called an embedded answers question or close, wherein it's actually fill in the blanks, but you can have short answers or drop down lists as well for the responses. But because some of the items are correct and some of the items are wrong, you get a partial grade for that. And in this case, the student got 5 out of 6. You can override it, for example. And because it's a programming course, we had to be very strict about how to enter spaces or parentheses or etc. Because the checker matches exactly the characters that we place in. Okay, this is a little challenging because what we did was we allotted one character per field and they're supposed to type in what comes out. And so you'll get partial points if you miss one of them or get some of them wrong. So something like this is an optional item. This one we checked manually instead of having the quiz checker grade it themselves. So this is just bonus. And depending on whether they actually type something or not, or the quality of their answer, then we give bonus points. For example, 33 out of 3. In this case, if they actually answered something, we'll give them extra points. So this one we graded manually. Okay, so that would be the review of the students' exam submission. You can regrade all of them so that if you corrected a question and changed the way it's graded, you can have Moodle redo the calculations and the checking, and you can have the regrading done. And in my case, there's nothing to change, and any changes will appear there. Yun. So for example, ito. So I can review the response just for that question. So notice that the student got some of them correctly and some of them incorrectly. So their score is 10 out of 30. It all depends on the questions that you placed in the exam. And to show you that, I will show you the questions in the test. I will edit the quiz so that you can see all of the questions. These have been paginated. So I cannot add or remove because there are already attempts. So I'm just going to edit to show you the content. So for example, this one, it says random because it selects from a set of 2 or more questions, and then the student gets one of them, not all, from the set. Okay, this was specific to, I think, math. So let's look at the grade book. I actually set up this when I got the questions from the math department in terms of how to compute your grades. Okay, if you want Moodle to, well, ideally you want Moodle to help you maintain your grade book. When you're in a course, you have the grades link here. Okay, and by default, you'll see this grade report. Okay, this report is not going to look accurate because there are no students in this course, but I want to show you the grade book setup. The gradebook setup allows you to distribute and indicate the weights of the items in your course. I set this up with the math department's question because they have 6 quizzes, and whatever they are, I just used assignments, and they said the 7th one is optional. Okay, so students are only allowed 1 attempt, yes, and out of them, the lowest one is cancelable. So what I've done is I've created a category. In that category, which is this one, quizzes. So in the category, I made the quizzes. In this case, because that's the only requirement, the quizzes take up 100% of the course grade. That eliminates all the other things I put there. They're not going to have any weight in terms of the course grade. This one is a weighted mean of grades, and it drops the lowest. To do that, I actually edited the category in the gradebook, and it uses the weighted mean of grades. But in the case where one quiz is optional or one assignment is optional, I will include the empty grade so that the optional one has no grade, then it will be 0, but it will be included in whatever gets dropped. So drop one lowest grade. This is the weighted mean. We will put a link to what all of these mean. It really depends on the calculation of your grades. In their case, all of the quizzes have equal weights. Then it's a weighted mean. And the weights are all, well, 1. In my case, it's 1. But again, you can change that. So I can add a category. Let's say you have a category for projects. Okay, my aggregation for that, I'll just keep it natural first. And therefore, all of your assignments can be placed in certain categories so that they factor into the weights of that, and you can group them together and see that and assign the weights for each category and the weight for each assignment if they're different. If you want to see the report of one activity, let's say this exam, you'll see the results, and you can look at the overall grade for all of the students, all of the participants. So 11 participants are within this range, and so on. That was the class record, the grade book. If you want to see one student only, you can click this button and it will show you all of the grades for that student. Okay, so that's one student's entire record in your class and everything they submitted. Per class, you'll go in the grade sheet, which is where we were earlier. This would be your class record of sorts, and you will see all of the submissions and the grades. And if you would like to go back and look at the quiz, at least for the quiz, you can go back and look at it. All right. I know there's a lot. That's a lot of information. We will put up a module specifically for this because there are a lot of settings. But the point we want to make is that there's a lot you can do, and the things that you usually do in your spreadsheet and all the other files that you keep, you can actually put it all on Moodle. Including if you record attendance and other things like that, you can actually make attendance part of the grade, which we don't do in the Loyola schools. So there, those are the most powerful grading tools in Moodle. There are others depending on the assignment or the activity. Like if you want to grade participation in the discussion forum, you can also do that. If you want to give a grade for just completing a questionnaire, you can also do that. The other thing that you might find interesting that we actually like but haven't really used it as much is instead of giving grades for certain things that are maybe not as valuable in terms of a grade, Moodle has what we call badges. So it's like if you were in maybe basic ed and every time you complete, let's say, 5 activities, you get a sticker or a badge for completing it. It's a way to gamify and make your course more engaging. So you can create badges. We're actually creating a module for this with customized badges with ALS, the Ateneo Laboratory for the Learning Sciences. Okay, if you want to view the recording of Moodle lectures, they're actually on the training site. So that's bit.ly Moodle Basics dash discs, the one that we link all the time. And we place the video, the recorded video after we edit it in the training calendar as to when it happened. So it'll be there. So after it is edited, we upload it to our YouTube channel unlisted and it will be there. Okay. And if they are related to certain modules, because they're also on the modules page. So for example, when we're talking about quizzes, the same video is linked because the quiz module spans multiple parts. We also link it there. So you can always go back to it. We intend to maintain this site for as long as possible. It will also be linked through the Ateneo Blue Cloud. Soon they're setting up the internal pages for that. Not all the modules are up yet, but we will keep adding them. Again, these discussions also guide us into which ones to focus on. Do you have a question?
Yes. So
Yeah.
you thank you for giving us the sample parang training, what do you call this, site to practice.
Yeah.
Can you give us the real site para we put in all our lesson already?
Okay. You can request ITRMO to already create a page for you, which is what the bus department has done. So you just email IT support. That's IT support at ateneo.edu. And you can give them the details of your class so that they can already create the page. The students won't be there yet until enrollment. But if you are like math, because they have their online learning modules for bridging the interrupted semester, you can have them set it up outside the regular schedule. So you can email them. I put the email address in the chat box and they will set you up with your course. Just provide them the semester when you're actually going to offer it and the course code and section if you already know the section so that you can put things up there. For now, until that is up, you can use the training page. You can make a section with your name so nobody touches it and place everything there. And then on Monday, I'll teach you how to back up those parts and import it into your actual course page so that you don't have to do everything over again. When the students resubmit a requirement, assuming you allow them, the new grade can still be overwritten. Yes. Well, usually we don't grade until we've stopped accepting submissions, mainly because you don't want to keep doing things over and over again. But when the student does resubmit because you still allow them to resubmit or the deadline isn't done yet, then yes, you can always override the grade that was already there before. So even the one I showed you earlier, if I wanted to change the grade of the student, I can still do it. For example, this one, I can still edit that person's grade and change the comment entirely, for example. Okay, so that's lab one. I can go to it and I can view his submission. I can just regrade it. I entered it in the wrong row. Oops, sorry about that. Corrections applied. And then you save that and so your student will now get the new grade. All right. So on Monday, we will have, well, that's our last officially scheduled online discussion to cover things that are a little more advanced, but also very useful in terms of already building all of your course materials and activities, but restricting when students can see them, when students can attempt them, and when they can stop seeing them, and so on. So these are what we call restricted access, which is a little more advanced, but again, very useful on a per activity and per resource level. Also, backing up and restoring from one course to another so that you don't have to keep doing things over and over again. And then we're also going to put up a page on the site, maybe that you'd like to share with your colleagues in a more situational aspect, meaning we're going to put up a page that's more, what can I do with Moodle? If I want to make a quiz, then we direct you to the actual module on that. Or what if I wanted to only make an activity available to one student because it's a makeup? You can actually do that on Moodle, things like that. So that's going to be up on this site. We're going to add a page here. We've already added the FAQs for those that are more frequently asked, but because we want them also to be situational, we're going to put a situational page there on what you can do with Moodle.
Is there an option for us to give letter grades instead of numerical ones?
Okay, if you there in Moodle, everything is numeric because it computes it. So you might want to map the numeric grade, the letter grades to the QPI grade, and then make the assignment over 4,
Four. Yes, yes.
and then make the passing grade 1 because that's the passing grade. Oh, there. Ian found the instructions for doing letter grades. So we will look that up and then translate it into a module. But if you want to go ahead, you can click that link and see how to do that in your own course. There you go. We'll be back here on Monday for our little tips and tricks. Thank you once again.